I don't think that we can assume that a diet that allows us to procreate and expand as a species is necessarily the same diet that is best for, or is automatically a good diet for maximizing or optimizing health span and longevity. If longevity is our goal, going back to the fossil records and just looking at what humans may or may not have been eating is maybe not the best place for us to go, particularly when we have all of this modern science looking at nutrition and chronic disease risk, longevity, how long people are actually living. We have all the things on the table right now.
And I've got things in my bag as well. Surprise.
We have blueberries. They're going to come up in discussion when we get to the blueberry banana smoothie study.
Okay.
That I'm bringing to the table today.
I don't know anything about this, and I'm excited to hear it.
It's the second smoothie study, actually. I brought one a little while ago.
That was a good one.
The blending.
Yeah.
Fruit versus blended.
Yeah.
Walnuts. They'll come up when we talk about omega-3s.
Was I meant to bring props for my studies?
These are BYO snacks, but they're also props.
Okay. So I can dig in?
They're serving as a reminder of things that we have to talk about.
I hope that this isn't getting lit.
Sage.
Last episode just smoked me out.
Super spiritual.
Should we light it? It's tradition. New tradition. We don't have a lighter.
Yeah. I also probably don't have enough liquid.
I've got some coffee.
Matcha.
You're welcome to have some of this.
A little bit of matcha.
Which I added coffee. Some. What did I add to it? I don't even know. I saw these on the table. I thought I'd drop them in. Mushroom, shiitake. What is it?
Yeah, just taking everything today.
What else is on the table? Some supplements, which we'll probably talk about. And in my bag,
I saw you at the gym this morning.
Yeah.
You're training pretty hard for you.
What, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Thank you, though, for noticing me.
I was impressed.
No, mate, I always train hard. You were training as your usual, just, no pain face. You always just look so comfortable. But the loads are impressive, I'll give you that. You definitely push hard, but you're not like a grunter or anything.
No grunting.
No grunting.
No, I feel like you can be relaxed in the face and still
Yeah.
have the intensity in the lift and in the contraction of the muscles.
True. I would even argue that some people perform better if they don't like over-arouse before a lift, right? Overhype.
Why didn't the weightlifter pay rent?
Is this a joke? Is this just a...
No. I'm just like, it's just a genuine question. Why didn't the weightlifter pay his rent?
Why? Can you answer that for me? Can you help me out here?
Because he was squatting.
Oh my God. When did you turn 64, mate? Very good. That's 3 dad jokes in 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. Love it. Do you have any more for later?
Maybe.
Okay.
We'll see.
Surprise me.
I will. One will come to my mind.
I know.
I did 45 minutes of weights, and then I did 30 minutes of zone 2.
Yeah, I
love that split.
As in like a shorter, intense workout, and then get on the bike, treat it like a bit of a cool down.
Feel amazing. So you have the contraction of the muscles and just lifting something heavy. That stimulus, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to do that every day.
Yeah.
Almost every day. Maybe one day a week I don't do that. And then the zone 2, so you get that cardio in. And I leave the gym feeling amazing.
Because you did the hard work early, and then the zone 2 feels fairly easy.
And I looked at my watts today.
Oh yeah? What are we talking?
170.
That's good,
for
mate.
30 minutes.
Very solid.
Yeah.
170, so you're sitting in what, like 130
beats per minute. Light sweat, not dripping, just
very
like
good.
a light sweat.
Yeah.
And could speak. I was on the phone for a little bit.
No,
Spoke
that's
to you
awesome.
for a little bit of it as well.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And a lot of people do their workouts the other way around. So start with the zone 2, then go to the weights. I definitely am more of a fan of what you did for the reason of, even though it's only like 30 minutes of zone 2 and it's not that fatiguing, it's probably enough to take away from your workout if you're trying to gain strength and size.
I think so.
But even if it's just minimal, like if your quads are a little bit depleted from 30 minutes on a bike and then you go under a heavy squat bar, like let's say you're lifting a heavy day. Yeah, I just feel like you're better off coming in fresh for your squats, smash them out, finish on the bike.
Yeah, it's
because your performance on the bike doesn't matter.
It it probably doesn't matter as much if you're doing your zone 2 and then you go and do upper body.
Right. Yeah, that's relative.
But I went straight in. I did 5 minutes rowing and then I just went straight into lifting.
Yeah.
And then did zone 2 at the end.
You did a lot of bench, man. Like every angle that the pec could work. Flat, incline, decline.
I have a much less structured, and you probably don't love this, but I have a much less structured way of working out.
You go by
probably.
feel.
I just like to have fun in the gym. So I play around a lot. So my exercise selection is always varying. And often I find that allows me to walk into a busy gym and I'm not constrained by some sort of plan and that equipment's not available. So what am I going to do? So I literally I know roughly how many sets a week I'd like to get. I know roughly the rep range that I'm working. And I know that the set, how far I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
To 2 reps to failure, and then maybe sometimes go all the way to failure. And just that as a guide seems to be almost enough.
Man, it's perfect. I do the same. Why did you think I wouldn't be a fan of that? I love that.
Well, I kind of presume that you like a bit more of a structured program where you know exactly every exercise you're going to do, which I guess it does have its place.
Well, depends. So if it's what I like to call like a training program, meaning you've got an end goal that you're trying to achieve, that's what I would call a training block, right? So you've got 4 to 6 weeks of follow the program to reach your goal. But your goal is longevity. Your goal is just to show up to the gym, maintain your strength, maintain your muscle mass, maintain your body composition, in which case I think what you're doing is perfect. It's freeing. You have that autonomy to just show up to any gym in the world. You know what muscle group to hit, how many reps you need to do to get it close enough to failure, the variety of exercises that you want to work on that day, you can just change them. Like, you know the movement pattern.
Right. You need some experience. And like the things that I'm conscious of are, so you said today, everything was barbell.
It's a lot of chest. It was chest day, right?
Literally, I went from like inclined barbell to decline barbell.
And finished on flat.
To flat. And then I did a close grip tricep barbell exercise. But where possible, I will rotate through. So there'll be barbell exercises, dumbbell exercises, machine exercises, and something that I've neglected is unilateral, bilateral exercises. I tend to sometimes miss the unilateral stuff. Yeah. Single leg work particularly.
Yeah, I think the unilateral stuff for upper body it's just so time consuming. Imagine, think of it, it's literally almost double the workout. If you have to do 12 reps of like a single arm press, then you have to do the other arm 12 reps. That's your one set. You got to do that 3 times. Whilst if both arms are working together, you're saving half the time. Yeah.
But probably more important for lower body, particularly for longevity. If you're thinking about kneeling down, coming up off one knee, picking something up in a kind of lunge position.
Exactly. And balance.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So you show up to the gym with the mindset of today is a chest day or push day. Like, what are you doing? Push. So you do a bit of triceps, bit of shoulders.
But today, even then, my push day today was way more biased to chest,
right? Because
I was thinking about the volume over the last week, and I had a lot of shoulder volume.
So, mate, this is intelligent self-programming. Like, you understand your volume metrics for the week. If you feel like one muscle group's had enough volume, you divert it to another. Mate, it's smart. That's the way to do it. The only reason my program is so structured is because some people don't have that inherent ability through years of training that you do and other people to actually self-regulate their training and understand like how much volume per muscle and all this stuff. It's complicated. So if you can just show up to the gym and just pull out your phone. That's
where a plan works amazingly.
So nice.
Well. Yeah. You don't have to think about anything.
I will say though, if your gym is busy, like peak hour. So for example, today I did what you did, right? So I had a plan. I had a rough plan of muscle groups to work. I wanted to start with a dumbbell bench. All the benches were taken. So I then was thinking, okay, I'll go to the barbell bench. They were all taken. What was I left with? Yeah, by you. You had a towel on each bench. So what was I left with? Well, either I wait and just stand around, or I was thinking, I know the movement pattern I'm trying to train. So I know the muscle group, it's chest. I know the movement pattern, like a horizontal pushing action. Push-ups, weighted push-ups with a deficit. So I create a deficit with like handles so I can at least let my chest sink below the level of my shoulder, get a really good stretch, chuck 20, 40 kilos on my back, rep it out. So that for me, it did the same job as my dumbbell bench press would have done. So I like to teach people how to become your own coach and understand how to change your workouts on the fly. Right? Don't get obsessed and stuck to what you came in to the gym thinking.
You want to have a few variations for a given movement.
You just need to understand the movement patterns and you can figure it out. So there's so many ways that you can do a horizontal pull, right? Machine, cable, bent over barbell, and if you're trying to work those muscles in your back, all of those variations are going to pretty much do a similar job.
Let's talk about that study that I think you brought in today. I think this will interest people, and it kind of makes sense to hit it now.
Yeah, good segue.
Looking at machine exercises versus free weight.
Yeah, that's right. I don't have the title of it here, but I'll give you the rundown.
Put it in the show notes.
Yeah, put it in the show notes. I'll give you the rundown of it. So the question is, and I can pitch it to you now. So this study is looking at free weight versus machine weight for strength outcomes, hypertrophy outcomes, right? Which one do you believe would produce more strength? Well, actually, what do you think the answer is? Machine versus free weight for strength and hypertrophy. What do you think the results would be based on? I can tell you like what the exercises are as well, but just off the top, what's better? Because this is a stigma, a bit of a myth as well, right? Machine versus free weight. Trying to build muscle and strength.
I think there might be a little bit of nuance to this. So if I think about being in a machine, one of the great things is you can be stabilized by the machine. So if you're more stable, then you might be able to create a greater stressor on the chest, for example, than you might with a free weight.
Yeah. It's easier to produce a mind-muscle connection,
right,
where you don't have to worry about stability and balance and
yes,
all the small muscles. It's just what muscle you're working.
And you can get an isolated contraction, stress, and your core might not be a limiting factor in that.
Okay.
Right. So that's one thing that I'm thinking of here.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that some of this could be a skill. So if I train in a machine, then when you test my strength, if you test me on a machine, I could be really strong. But if you test me off a machine with free weights, I probably will be stronger, but not as strong as the person who is doing their training specifically with free weights. That would be one thought.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there would be huge differences, and I think that much of this might come down to how experienced someone is. If you're doing a set to complete failure, maybe it's safer on a machine. Things like that.
Yeah, mate. I love those thoughts. And a lot of that is answered in this study. So I'll tell you what the study was testing and how they did it. So the design was done with 36 males. They did 2 weeks of familiarization, right? So you've got these two groups. Free weight group, who are lifting using a barbell, right? Versus machine group, who are doing a range of different machines. And the movement patterns are very similar. So for example, in the group training just with free weight, they're doing a barbell squat, a barbell row, a barbell overhead press, and a barbell bench press. The machine group are doing the equivalent movement patterns as the barbell, but on machines designed to do so. For example, instead of a barbell bench press, they're doing a seated chest press on a machine. Instead of a barbell row, they're doing a seated row. Instead of a barbell overhead press, they're doing a seated overhead press machine. And instead of a barbell back squat, they're doing the hack squat, like a plate-loaded hack squat. So the important thing about this study, which I love, is that other studies that test machine versus free weight used machines that were isolating muscle groups. So like barbell back squat versus leg extension machine.
As opposed to a hack squat, which is much more similar.
Yeah, it's taking the ankle, knee. Yeah, exactly. The ankle, knee, and hip are going through a range of motion. It looks exactly like a squat. You just don't have there's no need for the stability that you have on a back squat. You can just sit into the machine, focus on mind-muscle connection, and go.
Personally, I feel way more comfortable in a hack squat.
As in comfortable with the safety of it, or just the feel of contracting a muscle?
Stability, and I feel like I can lift more.
Right.
Because of that stability.
There's no risk of dropping the barbell. There's no risk of getting out of plane.
And also going to failure.
Right. Much better. That's what machines are so good for. If you really want to take a muscle to failure in a compound movement, no, I don't know, some people probably are, but you shouldn't be taking a barbell back squat to full-blown muscular failure. It's silly. But a hack squat or even a Smith machine, some of those you can get away with. You can re-rack, you can have set safeties and stuff like that. But anyway, so they train 3 times a week, both of these groups, 3 sets per exercise, and they progressively overloaded over multiple weeks, right? So they started at 65% of 1RM, and by session 20, they were up to like 85% of 1RM. So pretty solid loads. And the outcomes they were measuring were ultrasound of like a cross-sectional area of the muscles. And they tested, by the way, the rectus abdominis. So this is why, remember earlier you said you'd probably get more core contraction in a squat. Is that what you said? Did I put words in your mouth?
Yeah, essentially. You put words in my mouth, but I think it goes without saying your core muscles will be recruited more when you're doing free weights versus sitting in a machine where you're able to get support from that machine. Okay,
so they tested the pecs, the rectus abdominis, so basically the ab muscles, and the quads, the proximal and distal, so different regional areas of the muscle to see if the hypertrophy differs. And they tested 1RM so if you did the barbell program, you tested your 1RM in the barbell tests and the machine tests. And if you did the machine program, you tested your 1RM in the machine tests and the barbell tests, even though you didn't train with the barbell.
So my hypothesis was that if you were doing your strengthening, your resistance training in the machine, you're going to get stronger, but I'm not sure it would translate over to the free weight 1RM as well as the other group who would get great improvements in 1RM with the free weight and, relatively speaking, maybe better improvements in the machines.
So that was my hypothesis as well, and I was a little bit surprised with the results. There was no real difference in 1RM and hypertrophy between the groups. Right? The only slight difference was if you trained on a machine, you were slightly better at your 1RM on the specific machine you trained on. So if you did a barbell back squat program and then tested a 1RM back squat, you were slightly stronger in your 1RM than the same group who did the hack squat program and then tested their 1RM on that barbell. So only slight difference and not even statistically significant. So no real difference in 1RM or hypertrophy between the groups. And I think the reason for this is that this study was so well designed that the movement patterns were extremely similar. But if you did a leg extension machine and then tested your back squat, then we know that the specificity of a back squat is going to lead to way better 1RM than the leg extension machine.
Okay, well, that's actually a good result because that means people have more choice.
Exactly.
As long as you know what is a good machine exercise to substitute in for a free weight exercise, like what was used in these studies, then you can add that into your program. And there might be specific reasons, let's go through those, where there could be an advantage to actually doing the machine-based version of a particular exercise, like a hack squat versus a barbell back squat.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I only see this as good news. It gives lifters, recreational or advanced, more options. Barbell purists obviously won't love this study because some people just truly believe that a free weight barbell is like the ultimate way to build muscle and strength. It's just not true. So yeah, I guess like what is the application of this? Like in the real world, who would use this kind of information? Right. So I would say that, as you mentioned earlier, a barbell back squat and a barbell overhead press, they require skill and learning. And to be honest, like years of learning too.
Did they have dumbbells in this study?
No, this was only barbells. Yeah.
I wonder if a dumbbell chest press would be any different.
I have a feeling it would be very similar, to be honest. I think that even if they did the same exercise, there is a study looking at that. I've seen another study that I think the one that I've read before this, where it was a sort of false equivalence, where it was looking at a machine that didn't really mimic the movement pattern of the other. They used dumbbells. So, for example, I don't know, like it could have been like a preacher bicep curl, and then they test a dumbbell curl, but the muscles are different lengths, and maybe there is the ability for false equivalence there. But this study did a good job of keeping it very similar. And so across all the muscles, strength and hypertrophy was very similar. Slightly better if it was specific to your training program. But the interesting one was that the rectus abdominis, which I thought for sure would be better in the group that trained with a barbell, right? So barbell back squat. Think about it. Barbell back squat, standing overhead press with a barbell. I would think that the abs would get a way better workout. There's a higher degree and need for core stability. It wasn't the case. It was the same in both groups. So
did they measure the deep abdominal muscles as well?
Well, it was an ultrasound and cross-sectional area. So short answer, no. They measured the rectus abdominis. They didn't measure, I don't think, transverse abdominis or anything like that. But even the rectus, it was pretty much the same. And I guess the reason why, or this is my take on it, the amount of intra-abdominal pressure you need to perform a hard set of hack squat is pretty much equivalent to the amount you need for a barbell back squat. Right? So the abs are working to stabilize your core. Taking a breath in, big breath in, brace, and you're pushing against your abdominal wall. Those muscles need to strengthen to be able to maintain that intra-abdominal pressure. So whether you're doing a hack squat or not, it seems to be a good stimulus for the rectus abdominis. But yeah, going back to it. So back squat, skillful movement. Takes years to figure it out. Your bar path, where is your weight? Is it in your toes or your heels? How deep can you go? Can you balance? Is the limiting factor, like do you stop a set because you're fatigued or because you lose your form or your balance? There's so many reasons to stop a set. But when you're in a hack squat machine, you lock in. It's a fixed path. You're in the what do you call it? Like the train tracks or whatever the machine's got going on, and you just focus on that muscle and you just move.
Yeah.
So
it has its place, but that stability must come at some cost. Maybe it wasn't measured in this study.
Right.
You mentioned their balance. So for example, that squat is going to stress your balance more so. A barbell back squat is going to stress your balance more so than being in the hack squat.
Definitely, yeah, for sure.
And if you're a performance athlete, you also have to think about like sport-specific movements.
Right. Yeah.
What is mimicking the type of action that you're doing in your sport? So if you're a football player and you're, I don't know, running past another opponent, you have to quickly push off him. Right. That's arguably going to require a lot more core, a lot more stability.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, this wasn't measuring those things, but yeah, I can see the practical application of doing more free weight stuff if you're an athlete, for sure. But if you only care about growing bigger muscles and getting stronger in those muscles, you don't have to worry about whether it's free weight or machine, which is a good takeaway. One limitation is the way they stopped a set was when their velocity reduced by 20%. Okay, so going back to what you just said there, maybe some of the people doing a back squat stopped their set because their velocity dropped below 20% because they were getting out of position or felt uncomfortable. It doesn't necessarily mean they were closer to failure. It doesn't mean they were the same proximity to failure between groups. It just was a velocity change, right? Does that make sense? So they're measuring how quickly is that bar moving. When you lose 20% of your velocity, and they pre-measured it in the earlier part of the study, they terminate the set. But I can see a case where you're doing back squats, you get down to the bottom, you feel a little bit uncomfortable, out of position, and it's like a grindy rep. They'll call the set. But maybe you were just out of position. Maybe the next rep you would have been fine and been under that velocity threshold. So, it's not a perfect study.
There's more skill that's required
for these movements, absolutely. Yeah.
For free weight movements.
Yeah. But then there's also the downside of with machines is that, like, just the ergonomics of them. Some bodies don't do great in certain machines. Like if you have really long arms and shorter legs, and the machine's designed for the bell curve of human bodies, you're not going to fit into that machine very well, and you might feel it in the wrong place, or you might not feel it properly. So it doesn't just work for everyone.
But also good to go to complete failure. Have we spoken about that yet?
No, that's a great point. Way safer. Yeah, we kind of touched on it, but
which can be beneficial from my understanding, particularly the more experienced you are with lifting.
Right.
To take some sets.
Sure.
Past, because we've spoken previously about what is an effective set.
Right.
And we've spoken about the principle of trying to have like 10 sets for a given body muscle group in a week. Effective sets. Effective set being choosing a weight such that you only have a couple of reps in reserve, a couple of reps before failure. But there is an argument or a case to be made for taking some sets to complete failure.
Yes.
And you're not going to do that with a
bench press,
barbell back squat,
or a bench press,
Put
on a machine. So easy. You don't
it's a safety thing.
Safety. You don't have to bail out. And again, you can just focus on stressing that muscle. Like when you're doing a heavy bench, I don't know about you, but if you're doing strength training on a bench press, are you thinking about mind-muscle connection? Like, are you really trying to squeeze your pecs, and are you really able to focus on the muscle contracting when you're also worried about the bar path? And if I fail, how do I get out of this mess, right? It's on a machine. Just go as hard as you can, focus on the muscle. If you fail, you just let go, nothing happens. So it's cool. Yeah, I think it's like if people are interested in how to program and they're thinking, oh, well, I wanted to bench today, but there's no bench press. Should I do a machine press instead? Will I still get the benefits? Yes, probably yes. So if you want to work your way around the gym and think about easy ways to do exercise swaps, it doesn't always have to be free weight swap for a free weight swap. You can swap one for a machine or vice versa.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Inside Tracker. Track your blood biomarkers, understand your biological age, and receive personalized lifestyle tips backed by evidence to optimize your health. To get started with Inside Tracker today and get 20% off your first purchase, head to insidetracker.com/Simon. That's insidetracker.com/Simon for 20% off. Okay. Well, I'm staring at these walnuts.
Yeah, can we tell me why there's a bowl of walnuts?
Maybe we talk about the
eat one if that's all right.
Omega-3, Omega-6 episode with Philip Calder.
Let's get into it.
Which will be out by the time people listen to this episode.
Okay.
So they will have heard everything that Professor Calder had to share with us, which I thought was a really, really interesting episode. And long story short, he took us through what omega-3 and 6 fats are, the fact that they're essential. So unlike monounsaturated fats and saturated fats, which our body can synthesize endogenously within the body, omega-3 fats or omega-3 and omega-6 fats are considered essential. Mm-hmm. At least the short chain versions of these. So on the omega-3 side, alpha-linolenic acid, which is abbreviated to ALA, so that's what we'll call it from here on. Mm-hmm. And on the omega-6 side, linoleic acid, which is LA. Mm-hmm. And because they're essential, our body cannot make these. We have to get them through our diet. And there's a whole lot of interesting questions about these essential fats, particularly in different contexts. So he walked us through the two different pathways and how the body takes those, the omega-3 and the omega-6 that I just mentioned, from food and converts them into longer chain forms, which are bioactive. So on the omega-3 side, you consume, let's say I eat these walnuts. Mm-hmm. They contain ALA, which is that omega-3. And my body will convert some of that into DHA and EPA, which are the long chain omega-3s people may be familiar with that are found in fatty fish, fish oil supplements, algal oil supplements, etc. Mm-hmm. And there's been great debate for a long time as to how well will my body convert that ALA into DHA and EPA. And the reason that's important is that, and this is not conclusive, and we spoke about this, but it seems the primary role of ALA, if not the only role, is to act as a precursor to DHA and EPA. Mm-hmm. Not that ALA itself has any direct effect on our physiology.
Right.
So the question there is, are you able to convert enough of the ALA into DHA and EPA? That becomes more important if I'm not consuming a direct source of DHA and EPA.
Okay.
So if I'm eating these walnuts, but I'm also eating fatty fish, as we spoke about in the episode, and he recommended sort of 2 or 3 times a week to get 1 gram of DHA and EPA a day, which was his recommendation.
1 gram of
EPA
each or
total combined. Yeah. 1 gram of EPA and DHA,
okay,
which are the long chain omega-3s.
So what would be in a
You
piece
would need
of fish?
he said 2 or 3 serves of fatty fish a week. Now, I went away and looked at this. So salmon, mackerel, sardines, these types of fish. 2 is not really going to get you to that level, 2 per week. It's really 3 or 4 from what I could see.
Okay.
Now, not many people would be doing that.
Yeah, fish 4 times a week. Yeah. No.
That would be a very, very small percentage of the population.
Yeah.
So for many, many, many people, how well they're converting the ALA omega-3 in the foods they eat, so walnuts or chia seeds or flax seeds or hemp seeds, these types of foods, into DHA and EPA is going to be really important.
Yeah.
Unless they're supplementing.
Right.
So we've talked through all of these different contexts in the episode, and omega-6s get a lot of negative, bad press. Most of the outcome studies, and this has come up in previous episodes with Matthew Nagra and the debate that he did with Tucker Goodrich, but in numerous other episodes with Dr. Jill Carvalho looking at cardiovascular disease. When you look at comparing saturated fats to polyunsaturated fats, and in most of these studies, the polyunsaturated fats are essentially or predominantly omega-6s, linoleic acid. You see huge benefits swapping saturated fats for polyunsaturated fats in terms of outcomes we care about, like a reduction in risk of cardiovascular events. But the really interesting thing for people to think about is if you're not getting enough direct source of DHA and EPA, these bioactive omega-3s that have a number of beneficial properties in the body, your conversion of ALA into DHA and EPA could be negatively affected by consuming too many omega-6s. And the reason for that is there are enzymes that take omega-3s and omega-6s, alpha-linolenic acid, and linoleic acid, and convert them into the longer chain forms. And those enzymes are shared between the two pathways.
Right. So if you're eating a lot of omega-6s, those enzymes are busy.
So let's say, again, coming back to me, I've got these walnuts in front of me. Let's say I have no direct source of DHA and EPA. I don't eat fish, and let's pretend that I'm not supplementing. I do supplement. And I eat their walnuts, but in the context of a diet where I have a lot of omega-6s because I'm consuming a lot of seed oils, vegetable oils.
Canola oil and whatever.
Well, canola oil is really low in
bad example.
omega-6s.
So what would a high omega-6 oil be?
Sunflower oil. Corn oil.
Right.
Those types of oils. Canola oil is an exception. It's very rich in monounsaturated fats.
Right.
It's very similar to olive oil in terms of its fat profile, but it has a little more ALA, omega-3s.
But canola gets a bad rap.
It does. It needs another PR agency, a better one.
Sure.
So let's say that I have those walnuts in the context of that background diet, a lot of omega-6 rich seed oils. I may not be very good at converting that ALA to DHA and EPA.
Interesting.
So in this context, what should I do? Well, I think a lot of people will fall into this category that are listening. And they might not necessarily be people that are not eating seafood, but I think there's a lot of people that are not having 3 or 4 serves of fatty fish a week.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you're not having 3 or 4 serves of fatty fish a week, then you're relying on some of the ALA that you're consuming being converted into DHA and EPA. And if you have too much omega-6 in the diet, that might not be happening. And there was some other things that he spoke about. Zinc deficiency could also affect this pathway too. But we focus mostly on omega-6s here for the moment. If you fall into that category, or I think anyone should do this.
Can I have a stab? Can I see if I can guess this? Seeing as we're playing
Step 1.
Okay, step 1. You can reduce your omega-6 intake and keep your ALA consumption the same. And
what would you do before that?
Well,
before making
so my brain's
a change,
thinking
before making a change.
Okay, so before changing what you're eating, and can we supplement yet? Or does this count?
you can approach this however you want.
want.
There's no
Well, let me just
there's no wrong
give you my
answers
thought.
here. Actually, there probably are some wrong answers.
I'll try to give you a couple. This is the flow of my thoughts. You can either reduce your omega-6 and then you'll hopefully convert a larger percentage of the ALA to omega-3.
Mm-hmm.
You can increase. Could be wrong.
How would you reduce your omega-6? Let's get practical.
Okay, if I'm drinking a lot of plant milks that are rich in, what were the oils you mentioned? Sunflower oil,
corn oil.
So I'd look at the ingredients of those milks.
Soybean oil,
all of those. If there is a lot in those milks, and I know that I'm having it in my smoothies, in cooking with it, whatever, a high consumption of those plant milks, I would opt for ones that are lower in omega-6s, which there are some in the market for sure. Cooking oils, if I was cooking with sunflower oil and whatever else, I would swap them out for olive oil or canola oil.
Yeah, and that's the same thing on those plant milks. It can be a little hard to kind of work out exactly how much omega-6 is, because often on the nutritional information panel it doesn't say omega-6, it says saturated fats, unsaturated or polyunsaturated.
Right.
But it's identify the ingredients and try and look for ones that are using different types of oils like canola or olive.
And then I think maybe this could be wrong. What if I keep my omega-6 intake the exact same, but I triple my intake of ALA containing foods, or eat fish, not that I do, but people do, and or take a supplement? So if you keep your, this is a question I guess, if you keep your omega-6 intake the same, is there a threshold where no matter how much omega-3s you eat on the other side, it's capped, your enzymes are not going to convert it? Or can you offset it by increasing your intake of walnuts, chia, hemp, and go threefold what you would usually eat?
These are great questions. I would say before making any changes at all,
get a test.
Measure.
Yeah. Damn it. Should have known.
Right.
Yeah.
So before you intervene, where are you?
Yeah.
So you can have some intentionality behind everything that you're doing. Yeah. And then also, because there's not answers to all the questions that you just put out, which are really good questions, at least you can make changes and then retest.
Yeah, you got to know where you're starting from.
And see, are you shifting the needle?
Another question. Does everyone convert the same percentage of ALA to omega-3? Are you a better converter than me?
There are differences with genetic. We know that pregnant women convert more.
Okay.
Probably because DHA and EPA are really important for the developing fetus.
Right.
I spoke before about deficiencies. So certain deficiencies can cause a reduction in the conversion. If you're overweight.
Right. So you do the test.
So omega-3 index. So the test is called an omega-3 index. I did have one. I showed it on screen during the Philip Calder episode. Okay. So there's a brand. I have nothing to do with them. It's called Omega Quant. I think it's Bill Harris's company. He was on the show previously. You can order that in America. You can order it in Australia. I think it's about $40 to do the test.
Yep.
They send out a kit. You do a sort of finger prick. It collects some blood.
Okay.
And you go to the post office. You send it off. And in your account online, it gives you your results.
Right. So that's measuring the omega-3 to 6 ratio, or just...
It measures the DHA and EPA content in red blood cells. Okay. And you want that to be at 8% or higher, your omega-3 index. That 8% or higher is associated with reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. Okay. And that's where you see Japanese populations at, who have very low risk of cardiovascular disease. So start off with knowing where you're at, okay? Because then that can help guide things. So if you are not consuming fatty fish, you're not supplementing with DHA and EPA, and you're just eating chia and flax and walnuts sort of here and there, you're not paying a huge amount of attention to the omega-6s in your diet, you're probably going to land at 4%. You might even be lower.
Really?
Now, some people hear that and think and might be a bit worried. So say you're eating a whole food plant-based diet. Yeah. I just want to kind of underscore something. We know that vegan and vegetarians, through cohort studies, have lower risk of cardiovascular disease than omnivorous populations, despite having an omega-3 index typically around 4%. A lot of people see that and think, well, why even focus on optimizing omega-3 index? They already have low risk of cardiovascular disease. The point is that they might even have lower risk. They might do even better if you also optimize this other aspect of physiology.
Makes total sense.
So understand where you're at, where your baseline's at. Yeah. And then you do have these different options. How can you go about it? So number one, you could, if you want to, eat fatty fish or bivalves 3-4 times a week.
Do you think it makes a difference where the fish is sourced, like a wild salmon versus like a farm raised?
I don't think there's appreciable differences.
You reckon?
In terms of the DHA
omega-3 profile of certain fish?
From my understanding, it's not enough for that to be a huge deciding factor for someone.
Because I imagine a fish that's eating algae in the wild oceans would have a better profile.
But they'll put it into the food.
Okay, so even if they're feeding fish, I don't know what they feed them in a fish farm, like grain or whatever.
There's a book called Toxic, written by Richard Flanagan. Everyone should read this.
Okay.
I'm not sort of condoning or recommending people consume fish. Yeah, I think there's huge problems with over-harvesting of wild fish. Yeah. There's huge problems with farmed fish. You only have to read that book, Toxic, to understand what's happening down in Tasmania in the farmed salmon, the salmon farms. Yeah. And to understand that just because it's farmed fish doesn't mean it's not affecting the environment.
Right.
There's huge environmental repercussions.
Right.
And it's kind of one of those things where it's out of sight, out of mind.
And ethical.
But when you read that
quality of life for those fish, I've seen videos of fish farms,
and it's just not a solution to have 8 billion people eat 3 or 4 pieces of fatty fish a week.
Right.
So we have to think elsewhere. And in this conversation, we actually spoke about there's some neat technology now looking at you take a plant that produces ALA like canola, and you can, and this freaks people out, but understand you're not going to be eating anything that's genetically modified. But you can genetically modify the plant, you're not going to eat the whole plant, to produce fats, which will extract, to produce fats that are DHA and EPA.
Okay.
So you can insert, I think you insert the genetic code for those enzymes that I mentioned before that convert ALA to DHA and EPA into a plant that already makes ALA.
Got it.
And so that plant now makes DHA and EPA. Yeah. And you extract that. You're not extracting any sort of genetically modified thing that you're consuming.
Yeah. Because it's already doing it. You're just increasing the yield.
So this is now happening around the world.
Wow.
Right. It's in its infancy, but there are a number of companies looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to the individual. So you go and measure. Let's say that you measure and it's at 4%.
Yep.
Okay. So your options are, you can go down the fish route if that feels right for you.
Yep.
You can supplement. Again, it's 1 gram per day, around that, of DHA and EPA.
And just to be clear, with a supplement, the reason why that works is because it's got nothing to do now with the conversion using those enzymes. You're getting the direct source of EPA, DHA. So even if you're a shitty converter, you're going to get the direct source, right? So
exactly. So it doesn't matter how much omega-6 is in your diet now at that point.
So is that...
And I asked him this, and it seems there needs to be some more studies looking at this, because a lot of the studies where you add omega-6 to a diet and measure inflammation are doing it on top of a background diet where there's already a lot of omega-6. Right. So he was of the view that there should be some studies looking at reducing omega-6, looking at it in reverse.
Stratify the groups into low intake, medium,
high. But certainly at this point, I think the general view is that omega-6s are not inherently a problem other than if they're competing for the enzymes and stopping you getting enough DHA and EPA. Okay. We need omega-6s, they're essential. Yep. So if you go direct to the source and either that's through fatty fish or a supplement and you have enough DHA and EPA, then this issue of how many omega-6s are in your diet is arguably much less important to even focus on. Yep. You only have to focus on that if you put your hand up and say, I'm not going to eat fish and I'm also not going to supplement.
Right.
Because now you have to take the ALA in the walnuts or the chia or the hemp and convert enough to get enough DHA and EPA. So if you're supplementing 1 gram a day, triglyceride or phospholipid form, which is what most of them are, all of the algal oil ones are, and you do need to read the actual the nutritional information on the supplement.
Yep.
Because often it will say that it's 1 gram total.
Yeah.
But underneath that, it might say that's 200 milligrams of DHA and 100 milligrams of EPA.
The ratios are different.
Well, the ratios could be different, and I'm not sure we know the perfect ratio. But what I'm getting at is you might take a 1 gram supplement, but it's only 300 milligrams of DHA and EPA.
I see.
What we're talking about here is making sure that the daily intake of combined DHA and EPA, and I can't give an exact ratio. Should it be 60% DHA, 40% EPA? I don't think we understand that. I think looking, usually there's a little bit more DHA in these supplements.
Yeah.
And usually from my understanding, looking at quite a few different brands, it's often 60%, 60-70% DHA, 30% EPA.
Yep.
But you get a gram of DHA and EPA as actual active amounts that are in that
in the form we need it in.
Yes. And you can choose a fish oil, you can choose an algal oil. We have an algal oil one here.
Yeah, so I've been taking this every day. I've never tested my omega-3 status. Now I really want to do it. If you've got a spare kit, I'd love to.
How long have you been taking it?
I've been taking this probably for 6 months.
Okay, so that's the other important thing is when you start supplementing or having a direct source of DHA and EPA, you don't want to redo your test for at least 4 months.
Yep.
That's how long it takes for the red blood cells to turn over.
Okay.
So if you want to see the true effect that supplement's having, wait for the full life cycle of red blood cells so that you're now getting a clear indication as to how that supplement is affecting your overall omega-3 status.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so I take, capsules. I think I take about 2 to 3 capsules a day, which should give me my, just looking at the back here of this. So this is the one I take. I mean, I don't know if people are watching, and if that's in focus, but a meal Optimal Omega Plus. And so it's algae oil. And the reason I choose algae oil is because, as you mentioned, I know that I'm voting with my dollar. I don't want to buy fish oil. Plus, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but the EPA and DHA derived from algae oil is identical to the EPA and DHA from fish, right?
And there are studies looking at absorption.
Right. Is there a difference?
No difference.
No difference. Right. So I choose algae oil. This is giving me, I think it says here on the back, 800 milligrams.
So, but it's about, per capsule, it is 375 milligrams of DHA and EPA.
Right.
And so when you have, the serving dose on here is 1 to 4 capsules.
Yep.
If you have, I have 2 capsules of this, which is 750 milligrams.
Yep, I do.
But then I have a multi, the Essential 8.
Same.
Multi. They're the 2 supplements I have.
Is that a gram, the Essential 8?
Essential 8 is,
roughly,
off the top of my head, I think it's about 300 milligrams.
So we're pretty comfortably hitting that 1 gram target.
And you got to remember, Dr. or Professor Calder even says this is an extrapolation. It's a loose recommendation around 1 gram.
Yep.
The VITAL study, which looked at primary prevention, a supplement intervention, was 840 milligrams of DHA and EPA, and there was benefit in the subgroup analysis for low fish intake subjects.
Yep.
So, I've previously recommended trying to get around 840 milligrams.
Right.
He says a gram. So that's like your ballpark. But remember, you have to measure.
Right.
So
because it's in the context of your personal diet and your personal conversion ability. So you can't have a blanket recommendation.
And some of that's to do with body fatness,
genetics,
how much omega-6s are in your diet, micronutrient status.
Right.
So the best thing to do is use that as a ballpark.
Yeah.
Let's say 840 milligrams to around a gram of DHA and EPA. Do your test first. If you're not at 8%, think about optimizing.
Yep.
And just to kind of summarize the different options you have, it is fatty fish 3 or 4 times a week. It's fish oil or algal oil, like this one from a meal.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go down those routes, this is where you now have to start thinking about reducing omega-6s in your diet so there's less of that competition for the enzymes.
Yep.
What you're trying to do by lowering omega-6 in the diet, so if you, instead of cooking with soybean oil or sunflower oil, you move to a canola or an olive oil. Instead of buying a plant milk with a soybean oil, you buy a plant milk that doesn't have any oils in it. You're trying to free up the enzymes.
Yep. So basically I was so wrong about, even if you boost, you can eat all the walnuts in the world. If you are having a high intake of omega-6, likely that intake is going to interfere with the ability for those enzymes to convert. So like you can't just out eat the omega-6s in your diet by boosting the chia seeds.
My
and
assumption would be
walnuts.
there's kind of like a fixed amount of the enzymes.
Right. That's how I would understand it as well. But yeah, that's physiology. That's next level. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, so I don't think there's specific studies that have looked at that.
Because the reason I say this...
If you just crank up, let's say you have 10 to 20 tablespoons of chia seeds a day.
Right. But the reason I say this is because there's this old sort of, it's been floating around forever. It's about omega-3 to 6 ratio. And a ratio implies that it doesn't matter what the absolute amount is, as long as you have a ratio, meaning, let's say, far more omega-3 or ALA-containing foods compared to omega-6, that as long as you get the ratio optimized, you should be healthy and fine. But now I'm thinking...
I think it's the absolute amount of omega-6s.
Yeah.
That's probably most important. And I'm just not sure that that's going to be the best strategy anyway. If you crank up ALA to crazy high levels, to do that, it's going to be so many calories coming from these foods, which is what's that doing in terms of the foods that it's now removing, pushing out of your diet.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like an optimal strategy, that one.
So
this is just like taking a supplement is just like a great way to bulletproof it. Even if you don't test, let's say people don't want to test. Do you recommend you may as well just take a supplement anyway, just to be sure?
If you're not going to test, then 100% I would be having a direct source of DHA and EPA.
Yeah.
So you just have peace of mind.
Yes.
Because if you're not going to test, then you have no idea. You could have very, very poor conversion. Your omega-3 status could be well below 4.
Right.
Which we know increases risk of cardiovascular disease and probably neurodegenerative diseases as well.
It would be cool to see a comparison of like let's think of like the economics of this. Fish intake, 4 pieces of fish a week, ongoing for say 6 months, whatever, 4 months, versus supplement for 4 months, no fish intake.
This works out to be a little bit under $1 Australian per day if you have 2 capsules.
Right.
Which is
but that's with
70 US cents or maybe less at the moment.
Yeah.
It's about the price of buying a Coca-Cola every day.
But you're investing in your health with the simple caps. Yeah. That's with the discount code, right? I'm not sure is that because Emil are kind enough to sponsor us, and obviously we're ambassadors, and they're providing a code if people want.
What's the code?
The code was Omega Plus.
Omega Plus.
Yeah, so if people want to get a subscription, get this delivered, Omega Plus delivered to your door. And
it feels like a massive sales pitch, but
I know.
But really,
it's like a no-brainer, and it's a 25% discount
no-brainer.
code.
It's a
how good's that? That's a good punchline. Yes.
It's a great pun.
Yes. So you get 25% off. Use the code Omega Plus if people want this. If you don't,
but suit yourself. There's lots of different fish oils and algal oils on the market. You can shop around. We'll put the link in the discount in there. I don't think you'll get it cheaper than that.
No. And what would it cost? I mean, I don't know. I don't eat fish, but I'm assuming to buy fish, what would a piece of salmon cost?
The other thing about this is that this is TGA listed, right? Which means that it's manufactured in a facility that is under very strict regulations. Right. Some of the strictest regulations in the world.
So do you think that this industry in some places isn't regulated well? So
so you might buy a supplement and not know, and what's on the pack is not actually what's in there.
You're right.
Then you're going to be disappointed when you measure your omega-3 index.
Right. Yeah, interesting.
Price of fish.
Yeah. Piece of salmon, 4 pieces a week.
You're asking the wrong.
I know. I'm assuming a piece. It's got to be at least $15 to $20 for a piece of fish, right? I don't know.
I have no idea.
It just seems
but
more
expensive. Can tell you how much an egg burrito costs.
And a tofu scramble.
No, an egg burrito. This might land me in hot water.
Uh-oh. Go on. Is
this was my get it off the chest.
Is it? Let me hear this.
I want to know what you do in this scenario.
You ate an egg.
I ate an egg burrito.
Clip that soundbite.
So,
what happened?
I'm at a place in LA. This was a few months back. I'm sharing it because I want your feedback and maybe the feedback of the community as well. Feel free to go as hard on me as you want. So I go in there to this grocery store called Air One. Have you been in there?
Yeah, I've been there. I emptied my life savings.
Very easy to do. It's a marvelous place, but super expensive. Yeah. I went in there. I often would train and then go in there with Nimai. And he actually introduced me to this burrito. It's plant-based burrito. So this is Nimai's fault.
Yeah, okay.
I'm blaming him.
Right.
Anyway, on this occasion, wasn't with Nimai. I was there with another friend, and I ordered the plant-based burrito, and so did she actually.
What's meant to be in it?
And so what's meant to be in it is
tofu.
It's like tofu scramble. I think there is some type of plant-based meat maybe in there.
Right.
It's completely vegan.
Right.
It's called plant-based burrito.
Yeah.
I went in there, read the sign. I ordered that, a couple of them. Got some other food. We went outside and started eating. I unwrapped it. I bit into it. And she was also eating hers. Both of us had been given an egg burrito.
Mm-hmm.
I've bitten into this at this stage. What do you do?
I eat the burrito.
Right.
I enjoy every mouthful of it. I grew up eating eggs. I enjoy the flavor of them. I didn't stop eating them because I don't like how they taste. I stopped eating them because I don't want to pay for that industry to exist. And I'm also not that worried about the health impact of eating eggs, especially a one-off meal. So the damage had been done. You paid for it. You did what you did. Enjoy your burrito, mate. That's what I would do.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Good boy.
I ate the burrito.
Good on him. That's sensible. Think about how dumb. What's the other option?
I mean, the other option is you go in there, it goes in the bin, and then you get something else.
So you just
but
wasted
what have you
the
achieved?
egg. Yeah.
You haven't achieved anything.
You
and I'm with you in that I don't think eggs are unhealthy. They can be a part of a healthy diet.
Especially...
And a one-off meal's not going to hurt me.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a relatively easy decision.
Easy decision.
Right? It was an easy decision at the time. I wasn't with like a group of people where someone was who hadn't ordered food was like, oh, I'll eat that.
Yeah.
Instead of going in and buying something.
Right.
And just in reflection, I thought about it. I was like, oh, I wonder what the community would think about that.
Mate, to me, you're still vegan, even if you do that. Even if you're an ethical activist and someone or you order something and it comes wrong, the other option is worse. Food waste. So throwing the burrito in the bin, that's just stupid because they're not going to resell it. They're not going to eat it themselves, the staff. It's going in the bin. Why would you waste it? Unless you really feel like you can't stomach it. Like I know people who literally can't stomach anything that has an animal in it. Fine. Then you can throw it away if you really want to, or give it to a homeless person, or find a way to get rid of it. But I still think, what is the definition of veganism?
It's to reduce pain and suffering as far as practically possible.
To me, it is practical. That's a situation.
I'm not sure if that's actually the definition.
It's very close. I think it is. That's very close. But to me, what you do there, that is a practical way to solve that problem. You're going out for lunch anyway. You're going to eat something. You've spent the money. You voted with your dollar. Now something has to happen with that burrito.
Okay.
Ending up in the bin is
let's do another hypothetical.
Okay.
You're traveling. You might not have an answer to this. You might need to think about it. Maybe you do. You're traveling. You're in a remote kind of location. Maybe you're with a group.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't have control over the menu or the catering. They understand your dietary preferences, but there's only so much local food around to kind of accommodate for you. Let's say you're away for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And your option is to eat like everyone else does for that month.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the local foods are that get served up. And some of them will contain animal foods. Or it's to not eat any animal foods, but you're going to be essentially served, bare bones type dishes, lettuce and carrots, no protein at all, or very minimal protein,
right?
For the duration.
You're basically eating the garnish that the other people are having.
You get
on
the
their
side
fish.
plate, so whatever they had as their side plate, that's what you're given,
right?
In maybe a little bit bigger volume,
like a slice of zucchini
as your main.
Yeah.
Places that are not accustomed to kind of serving nutritionally adequate plant-based meals. So how do you approach that?
Do you want me to put my neck out? I will. Honestly, okay, this is what I'm thinking. So I'm on holiday. Part of the reason I'm on holiday is for the enjoyment. I've got one life here, right? If they have catered for a set amount of people, 40 people, okay? Like, let's say, for example, here's a nice little addition to the hypothetical. It's an island. You're in Fiji. You're on an island, okay? They're catering every day for the 40 people that are on that island. And they are getting their fish from a line caught, like they're literally catching it right out the front of your island. You're eating a traditional cuisine, a special, Fijian dish with these people that you're trying to have a good experience with. They're catching it anyway. The fish is there. I can be honest, I would be very tempted to eat that fish. Right? Now, obviously, I don't cook fish at home. I don't buy it. I know that fish is healthy. We just spoke about it. So I know that on a personal, selfish level, I'm going to get health benefits. I know it's only 4 weeks. I could starve for 4 weeks. I could have no protein for 4 weeks and I'm going to be just fine. I won't probably, I'm not going to lose that much muscle. I don't even care. Yes, I could do that. The other option is you eat the fish with everybody else that's line caught in a sustainable way. Ethics aside, it's, you decide to do it so you can enjoy your experience for those 4 weeks.
I think there's something to be said about, let's say that you don't do that and for the 4 weeks you just eat the side salad.
Yeah.
The example that's setting.
Right.
You can look at this from both ways,
because
you can look at it from the other way and saying the example of staying true to your values is a very good example to set.
Yes.
But then you can say, okay, if I'm going to sit there while vibes are up and I'm just eating this little side salad and everyone's watching that, is that going to be inspiring?
Okay.
Am I going to inspire them to even think about eating more plant-based?
Right.
Or are they going to look at it and think,
that
just seems like he's sacrificing so much joy
for a label,
and it's too restrictive.
Right.
I personally think more is to be gained by kind of being a little more relaxed,
loosen up a
in
little
that
bit.
environment,
right.
Not trying to be perfect,
right.
But still communicating, saying, I'm eating like this here to enjoy myself and enjoy this moment with everyone here. Because there is restricted food available. But as soon as I go back to my own environment, when there's so many different food options available, I actually don't eat like this. And they might say why.
Yeah.
And it opens a conversation up.
Okay. Can I make a confession now? What's funny about
Did
this?
I just make you feel really comfortable?
Yes. Now I'm ready to confess. Preacher. Yeah.
This was not planned.
Oh my God. This is so funny. That example was like deja vu. I'm just going to share this with everybody real quick. So I was in Israel last year. Group of 15 of us, I think it was.
I remember the trip.
10 to 15 people.
I was meant to be there.
That's right, yes. Amazing trip. What a place. Anyway, 15 of us.
Massive FOMO.
I was plant-based, and I am plant-based, and I was plant-based for pretty much the whole thing, right? Everywhere I went, I chose plant-based options. I made sure that there was, and it was easy, right? It was really easy to be plant-based. There was this one day that we went to a restaurant, which was sort of like an isolated region, just a beautiful setting. We were at a table, all 20 of us, right? I don't know if it was 20. It was a big number. And we were getting served like basically share plates for the table. And everyone else most of them were eating animal foods. There was a couple of guys who were plant-based, myself included. And all this food would come to the table and they were bringing so much food, like an excessive amount of food, right? And a lot of the plates were going back to the kitchen uneaten. So I pulled the waiter aside and I said, mate, what are you throwing these out? He's like, yeah, we throw them out. And I'm thinking, that is such a shame. Like there's literally like a platter of like sashimi and then like fish and oysters, mussels, whatever it was, going back to the kitchen uneaten and it goes into a bin. So in that moment, I saw the fish in front of me. I knew I love fish. I used to eat it all the time. Like we said, I know it's healthy. And I saw the sashimi. I'm like, this is going in the bin. We've paid for it. The damage is done. I ate the fish.
How'd you feel?
Well, it tasted good. And it wasn't amazing. Like it wasn't good enough that I would like add it back into my life on a daily basis. But in that moment, I enjoyed it. I didn't feel guilty because I knew that it was going in a bin anyway.
And what did the group think?
So I said to the group, so of course there were lots of eyes on me and I knew that I was going to get...
Because I think people might start to almost criticize you in that.
You're not
position.
vegan anymore. Right. Firstly, I never said I was vegan. Right. I eat a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm known for.
Which is what I say as well.
But there's a huge ethical component in that, right? The reason I'm plant-based is a lot of it is ethics. But in that context, I chose to eat the fish because I knew it was going into a bin. So I said to everyone exactly that. I go, guys, listen, I don't order fish at restaurants. I don't cook fish at home. I don't eat animal products. In this situation, with these people who are my friends, who I love, who are having a good time, I chose to do it so that I could experience the same experience that they were having. And in my opinion, I don't think that it doesn't feel like I went against my morals and values, to be honest, in that position, seeing as the fate of that meal was going to be in the bottom of a trash can. So I ate it, and I felt
in the moment,
okay.
Net positive, net negative. If you come back to that, so I think in that moment, that's a net positive.
Right.
The food didn't go to waste. It's a similar scenario to the egg burrito.
I know what people will say about this, though, and I had this thought myself. It becomes a slippery slope for others if you're setting an example of, hey, sometimes in the right context, I'll dabble. Where do you draw the line? If it's not black and white, where do you draw the line? How often do you do that per year? Do you break your rule of being plant-based 50 times per year because social life, my friends are here. So then it becomes a bit blurry, right? So people might look at you and go, oh, that's really, like, that's cool that you can be plant-based 99% of the time.
Back to you as the individual.
Yes.
You know your values, right?
Yes.
And you know if it's the exception or you're just using that as an excuse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you could abuse that.
That's what I mean.
That line of thinking.
That's what I mean. I think some people will talk themselves into eating way more animal foods per year than they probably should based on that line of thinking. So it's murky, because then there's other situations where, again, I'll be at a friend's house for dinner and I'm the only person plant-based and it's a buffet style thing. And again, there's fish or something's going to go in the bin. And I'm thinking, should I set an example here in this position, or should I, cave in? And it's hard, it's a tough one. I don't think there's a right answer. I think a lot of vegans will obviously choose the hard line, black and white. No, you don't do it. You don't eat animals. Other people who maybe eat a plant-based diet for other reasons, like health reasons, if you're going to branch out, I think doing it with fish or seafood is probably better than doing it with meat. Like if it was steak, I don't know why. For some reason, I don't think I would have done it. I don't know why. I feel like that I actually don't enjoy eating anymore. But with the fish, I just decided in that moment to do it in front of 20 people who are social media influencer people. Cameras are out. Man, I knew that this was a big call, and I went for it.
Were there any conversations after that?
No, people
Not really.
Not really. Went away. And then the next morning I was eating plant-based while they weren't, and the next lunch, same again. And for the rest of the trip, I was back to what I was doing. It was one meal, Let's see the backlash after that confession.
Yeah, that's kind of a flexible plant-based approach.
Yeah.
It's a little less restrictive. I really would be interested to hear what people think about that in the comments.
Yeah.
It'll ruffle some feathers.
I know.
But I think there'll be a lot of other people out there who have a similar approach.
Actually felt really nice just voicing that.
Yeah. But it can be a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope. But
You're right. That's where the hard line
is easier in a way.
And if I think back to my kind of personality, it's where the hard line
suits you.
Works. It works.
It does.
It just stops that those foods sliding back in.
Right.
And the
it's
volume of them increasing.
Not on the menu. Simple. It's not on the menu. I don't consume it, no matter what. But I mean, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I'm just going back to your situation. Like if you found yourself in a position of, on a group trip, 40 people, 4 weeks, would you be concerned about losing muscle? Would you be concerned about not getting certain micronutrients or protein or amino acids? Or would you care about more the ethical side of it? Like where do you lie in that sort of like moral dilemma of it? Is it more about health? So you'd be thinking, really, I've put in all this hard work.
I'm not thinking about health.
Right.
So much for 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Like I'm going to probably take a multivitamin.
Right.
I might even have some protein.
Right. Yeah, like sachets of protein powder.
I'm not going to have a protein deficiency.
Yeah.
In 4 weeks. To be honest, more what I'm thinking about, and maybe this is me caring too much about what other people think, but the way that I rationalize it is if I am just sitting there eating salad and carrots and I'm not setting a good example to these people. So if I'm with people that I respect and I want to inspire,
right,
then maybe a more relaxed approach in that environment is going to be more conducive to opening up conversations and actually inspiring some change.
Right.
As opposed to them looking at me and thinking, gosh, that's so boring. I could never do that.
Miserable vegan sitting on his own, munching on a carrot.
Right. So I play devil's advocate, and I mentioned it before.
Yeah.
The other thing, maybe some people might look at it and go, wow, I really admire the ability for someone to stay strong to their core values like that. That's impressive.
It's impressive too, yeah.
Right. So I don't have a perfect answer for that.
Yeah.
It's something that if I was in that situation, I probably would need to try it on and see how I feel.
How you feel.
I want to see conversations, how people react.
Right.
I haven't been in that position before.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Forget about the people, what they think about you. What about the enjoyment of the experience of being in another country and another culture? So going back to that Fiji example, so there's a dish in Fiji where it's like I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically this like fish in a coconut with lime, and it's just well known as a Fijian staple, and they eat it every single day. They serve it to the guests. It's always there. Do you think you could experience Fijian culture without experiencing the cuisine side of their culture and just enjoy everything else that they have to offer, like the music and sport, and they love rugby and guitar?
But where do you draw the line? Do you go to Argentina and just have huge steaks?
No.
That's a part of their culture.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But
animal food's part of almost every culture.
Yeah. It's a good point.
I don't give a lot of thought to that, personally.
Yeah, so you can enjoy
I think
experience.
I can still enjoy time with those people and connect with those people.
I agree.
Without having to eat that dish.
I agree. And perhaps, like you say, if people are, because people are going to be in this position, and I'm sure there are vegans that are. I mean, I felt in this position with my dog even. Like, what do I feed my dog? I don't have animals in my house, in terms of edible animals in my house. I've got a dog that lives in my house, but I don't have animal foods in my house because I am plant-based and I don't want to support certain industries, but I care about my dog more than anything. I can't force my dog to be plant-based because maybe I'm wrong. People are going to correct me. Mention it in the comments if you want. I don't know if a plant-based diet is okay for dogs. Some people think it is. Some people think that it's terrible. But because I'm not comfortable with it, I feed my dog animal foods. Small amounts and a lot of plants as well, but some of his diet is animal foods. And that became a moral dilemma. It's like how does a vegan have a dog or a pet cat? Think about a cat. Because I think, I might be wrong, that they are obligatory carnivores. How can you be vegan and have a cat? If you have an option to not have a cat.
I think truly ethical vegans would say that just having pets in general is a problem.
Yeah.
And we're increasing pain and suffering by domesticating these animals.
But then if you rescue, I know a vegan, I'm not going to name the person obviously, but I know an ethical, very well-known vegan on social media and in that world who rescued a cat, tick, that's great for the animal, but feeds it meat because it's a cat and needs to eat meat to be healthy because he loves his cat and wants it to be healthy, but he obviously loves the life of his cat a little bit more than he likes the life of the cow, the cat, or the sardines or whatever they eat, right? So is it a vegan decision to just not rescue the cat? What's more vegan, rescuing the cat or not rescuing the cat because you have to feed it another animal? There's a moral dilemma. Answer that, somebody. It's hard, man. This is hard. With all these decisions, we're just trying to.
I mean, in the moment when you can see the cat,
right,
you rescue the cat.
Okay, and then you feed it meat for the rest of its life.
And that's out of sight, out of mind. That's the sad reality.
There's no right answer.
That's the sad reality.
There's no right answers here. Interesting thought experiments, though.
But if there was a lot less domesticated animals,
yeah, I hear you.
But then there could also be less happiness
for us.
Yeah,
and then we try to rank happiness. Yeah, us versus the animals that we are saving.
Animals definitely bring a lot of joy and happiness.
Oh, mate.
Imagine a life without
immeasurable.
Dogs.
Oh my god. I would sign
out. I'm not up for that.
I'm out. Yeah, I'm out. I'm tapping out.
Sorry, guys, no puppies.
Oh gosh. I mean,
if we're in a simulation, thank God they added puppies.
Dogs, yes. They're just the best.
Hey friends, if you'd like to stay connected and reinforce the valuable insights from this show, let's connect on Instagram. You can find me at Simon Hill. That's at Simon Hill. I look forward to seeing you there. All right, let's dive back into the episode.
Anyway, that was, mate, I didn't think we were going to talk about ethical veganism, but there we go. There we go.
Oh, where do we go from that? I had a video to play for you, actually.
Okay. Show us.
So this is kind of a get it off your chest.
Okay.
That egg burrito was somewhat of a get it off your chest.
That's how this started. I forgot about that, the egg burrito.
I ate an egg burrito.
You ate an egg burrito.
Sorry, guys. I'm not vegan anymore.
But you're vegetarian.
I'm definitely, I guarantee there'll be people in the comments saying
he's not vegan anymore.
He's not vegan anymore.
Yeah. At least you ate an egg. I ate a freaking
That's still
fish.
classified. I'm still plant-based.
Yeah. Vegetarian.
Still plant-based.
No problem.
Guys.
If you knew how many eggs I'd eaten before becoming plant-based, you would not believe it.
I am not carnivore. I can say that.
You can definitely say that. I used to eat 3 eggs a day every day. 21 eggs a week. Yeah.
Okay. So, speaking of carnivore.
Yeah, what do we got here?
We have Dr. Anthony Chaffee. He recently did some sort of an interview titled "Arguing Dr. Chaffee Against the Carnivore Diet." So I think someone else he was debating, and he mentions me.
Oh, really? Let me see.
That's why I want to play this.
I like this.
What lions have been eating for the last 2 million years is what lions are supposed to eat. What koalas have been eating for the last however long they've been eating eucalyptus is what they're supposed to eat, right? So this is what you're biologically designed and adapted to eat. You can't eat something for 2 million years, survive as a species, and thrive as a species if you are not already biologically evolved to it and designed to eat it, or you have then become optimized to it. It just doesn't work like that. That's just not how biology works. And so I've heard this argument from Simon Hill, which I just thought was insane. He's like, oh yeah, well, I'm not arguing that, people, have been eating meat for 2 million years, but, it's probably not optimal, probably suboptimal. This thing that we've never eaten before in human history, that's definitely better because, some study said so. Like, I just don't care. You don't understand biology from a fundamental level. During the Ice Ages, what plants were available to eat exactly? What were people eating when they crossed the land bridge through the Arctic Circle in the last ice age to cross from Asia into North America? What yams were available then? Where was the honey and fruit and manna from God? No, there was meat, and that's what you were eating. And you cannot just barely survive an ice age, right? If the Simon Hill theory of like, oh well, everyone was just dying and getting heart disease and cancer and all that stuff. No record of that. Absolutely no evidence of that. It's pure supposition. That is a pure accusation, with baseless accusation. All these people were just dying off and things like that, getting cancer and all that sort of stuff. No, because if they were, they would be too sick to survive and thrive during an ice age. You cannot just eke out an existence. A bunch of people on life support and chemo are not making it through an ice age when you have to hunt mammoths and fight off saber-toothed cats and ice bears and things like that. That's not going to work.
Wait.
Okay.
You didn't say that.
So
hold on a second.
I've never claimed that people were dying, like our ancestors were dying of heart disease and cancer. These are mostly modern diseases. Yeah. And what was killing our ancestors was the harsh conditions that they were living in. Right. Infections or predation from other species or being attacked from other tribes. Yeah. Things of that nature. But where he and I very strongly disagree is I don't think that we can assume that a diet that allows us to procreate and expand as a species is necessarily the same diet that is best for, or is automatically a good diet for maximizing or optimizing health span and longevity. Mm-hmm. So if longevity is our goal, going back to the fossil records and just looking at what humans may or may not have been eating, right, is maybe not the best place for us to go, particularly when we have all of this modern science looking at nutrition and chronic disease risk, longevity, how long people are actually living. So even then, going back and trying to identify what did humans actually eat, right? He follows a carnivore diet, and he's kind of taking this position that humans used to eat predominantly meat or all meat-based diets. And that is hugely debated.
Right.
I had Herman Poncer on the show, who is an evolutionary anthropologist. That's all he studies. He wrote a book called Burn, and I think Dr. Chaffee could maybe interview him or read his book Burn. And when you look at his work, and he's gone and lived with the Hadza, but he's also researched the Chamane and tribes that are no longer around, and looked at multiple things, looked at the diet and the contribution of carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And I have a table here from a 2018 study that Herman Poncer authored. And in table 1, he actually goes through and looks at the Hadza, the Chamane, the Shuar, which is another tribe, and compares them to Americans and looks at the contribution of energy from carbs, fat, and protein to the diet. And then he also looks at their LDL, their cholesterol levels, including LDL. The Hadza, 65% of calories for the Hadza on average comes from carbohydrates.
Which equals plants.
So Dr. Chaffee there was suggesting that I'm proposing that people consume some new foods that we haven't consumed for millions of years. Humans have always consumed plant foods. This tribe here is getting 65% of their calories from carbohydrates. That means much more than 65% of their calories are coming from plants, because there's also protein and fats coming from plants. The Chamane gets 72% of their calories from carbohydrates. Americans, 46%. So Americans are consuming a low carbohydrate diet relative to the Hadza and the Chamane.
Wow.
If you look at that, this data. Now, the other interesting thing here is Dr. Chaffee will and others like Paul Saladino will often point to the Hadza. Right. Not only will they get that wrong, that there's a huge amount of carbohydrates in their diet, but you won't hear them talking about their LDL cholesterol levels. What do you think the average LDL cholesterol level is in the Hadza?
I would say it would fall outside of our, what range are we talking? Like the
milligrams per deciliter. So the average Americans is 135.
I'm guessing that it's outside of the lower part of our normal range. Like it's low, basically.
If anyone can recall the 7 hours that I did with Dr. Thomas Dayspring. Basically, when LDL cholesterol is sort of 70 milligrams per deciliter or lower, people really don't get atherosclerosis. And you can see that best in the genetic Mendelian studies, where people have a genetic mutation at birth, super low LDL cholesterol, they just don't get atherosclerosis. The LDL cholesterol level on average in the Hadza, this is in table 1, is 62 milligrams per deciliter. What does that tell you about their diet? It has to be high fiber. It has to be low in saturated fats. It is not the diet that Dr. Chaffee or Dr. Saladino are putting forward. At all.
Well, the other gaping hole in that argument, where he contradicts himself, is I bet you if you said, are humans omnivores, he would say yes, right? Which means we can eat animals and plants, right? Would you think he would agree with that?
Yes.
He has then chosen to have the one extreme, only animals in his diet. You have chosen the other extreme, only plants in your diet. The difference is, though, we have modern day data, fairly longish term, to show that the more plants you eat, the healthier you are. He doesn't have that. So he's gone and said, we ate meat for millions of years, therefore we should only eat meat. You're saying, yeah, we ate meat and plants. I'm going to lean on the plant side of it. And look at all this research showing how much better the health outcomes are today in this world, not in the million years ago world where we don't really actually know. Like, what do we know right now?
But I would also just debate the point of us ever eating a diet that was all or mostly calories from animal foods. He might be able to find like one example of that. But most of the data that we do have, particularly on these modern day hunter-gatherer tribes, suggests that they're getting a fair percentage of their calories from plant foods.
But I feel like what he said about your claims, I don't even know, have you even said that? Like he sort of said that, you know, I can't remember what he said, but
Let's play it again.
Play it again. I need to hear that again. it doesn't sound like something that you would have said. I feel like he for sure misrepresented your position on this.
And then you look at studies, just looking at what humans ate and our biology and our the anthropology and paleoanthropology, and looking, okay, what did humans actually eat? Well, what we've been eating for the past 2 million years is what we're supposed to eat. What lions have been eating for the last 2 million years is what lions are supposed to eat. What koalas have been eating for the last however long they've been eating eucalyptus.
What lions have been eating for however many years is what lions are supposed to eat. Can't we reframe that and say what food was available is what you have the option to eat, right? So we have food available now that was different to however many million years ago, right? So what is the available food in your current environment, and what is the health outcome you're looking for? We have foods available now in this day that we know promote health. So I don't know if it's about supposed to. It's like this idea that he was there when we were designed. I was there in the factory when we designed the humans, and this is what they're supposed to eat. No, you evolve at what's available in your environment. They were eating those foods because they were available. We have foods that are now available that we also know can improve our health. So how come we can't eat those? Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. In my head, that makes so much sense. I hope people followed that.
Is what they're supposed to eat, right? So this is what
Siri.
we're biologically designed and adapted to eat. You can't eat something for 2 million years, survive as a species, and thrive as a species if you are not already biologically evolved to it and designed to eat it.
Hold on. Let me just put something to you. Let's say today, all we have available to us is McDonald's.
Yeah.
That's all we have available to us. Are we still going to be able to procreate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fast forward.
We'll evolve.
Let's just fast forward in a million years from now.
Yeah.
And you look back and you saw that humans today were eating McDonald's. Right?
Yeah.
Does that mean that McDonald's is the best diet for longevity? It just means that at this point in time in 2000,
you did a way better example.
in 2023,
yes,
McDonald's was around.
You evolved to your environment.
Well, McDonald's provided enough nutrition it wasn't killing people before they could have babies.
Right. That's what I was trying to say.
It's killing people when they're 50, 60, 70.
Yes.
Right? That doesn't affect evolution.
Mm-hmm.
So we could go back and look 2 million years ago.
Yeah.
I still disagree with him. He's trying to act like he knows the lion diet and the human diet, and he's trying to make it that's clear cut that humans ate a carnivore diet or carnivore-ish. I would debate that.
Yeah, we don't know that.
And I think Herman Ponce's work suggests that that's just not true.
Right.
But you could go back and see what humans were eating 2 million years ago. The only thing that tells us is that those foods were good enough to get them to an age to procreate, and that's why we're here today.
Right.
It does not tell us that Homo erectus 2 million years ago, who was eating that, if he had kept eating those foods and wasn't killed by another animal or killed by another tribe or killed by an infection, that he was going to live to 80, 90 with clean arteries.
Do we say the same thing? Do we become best friends? Mate, 100%. Can you keep playing though? I want to hear that part where he mentions your name. I'm trying to figure out why he quoted you.
Or you have then become optimized to it. It just doesn't work like that. That's just not how biology works. And so I've heard this argument from Simon Hill, which I just thought was insane. He's like, oh yeah, well, I'm not arguing that people have been eating meat for 2 million years, but it's probably not optimal, probably suboptimal. This thing that we've never eaten before in human history,
plants.
That's definitely better because some studies
plants that we've never eaten.
That's what I'm saying. You never said that.
And so
we always ate plants.
We've always eaten plants.
That's what I'm saying. So that's a total.
Care. You don't understand biology from a fundamental level. If we've been eating meat for 2 million years, even if we didn't start out as it being optimal for us, it definitely would have become optimal for us. That's just how biology and evolution work.
Pause.
And so
if something's not optimal for longevity, how over time does it become optimal for longevity?
Say that again.
The example I used before. So McDonald's.
Yeah.
Right? Is it possible in 2 million years from today?
Mm.
So he just said then it's possible for something that's not optimal will become optimal over time.
Mm-hmm.
That is akin to us saying that today, Big Macs,
Yeah.
which we know are not optimal for longevity today,
Yeah.
that they will in 2 million years be optimal.
Yeah, I don't think you can't do that, because I actually think it's case closed when you explain the only reason that we need to get to the age to be able to reproduce, have our offspring, they do the same thing, down the line, that is how we evolve and continue. It tells you nothing about the quality of your life or your health in your later years. We are in a privileged position today that we can actually care about those things. We have antibiotics to stop infections that would have killed us millions of years ago.
The only way for what he's saying to occur would be only the people that eat Big Macs today that are going to live to 90 or 100, we're only going to let them have kids. That's the only way how you can change the gene pool in that way.
Right.
Do you see what I mean? Because if people who are being killed by McDonald's at 60 or 70 because they get cancer or cardiovascular disease are able to have kids,
Right.
then we're not influencing the gene pool in the way to make humans all of a sudden resilient to junk food.
Right. The genes have been passed on. It's been done.
The genes are passed on.
Yeah.
So this is, I mean, I'm not sure what he just said about me.
Yeah.
What was the
I'm
wording?
lost now. He called you insane, for sure.
He called me insane.
Yeah. I also don't like...
But that's okay. I don't take offense to that.
From Simon Hill, which I just thought was insane. It's like, oh yeah, well, I'm not arguing that, people, have been eating meat for 2 million years, but, it's probably not optimal, probably suboptimal. This thing that we've never eaten before in human history, that's definitely better because,
never eaten
some
before
studies said so. Like, I just don't care. You don't understand biology from a fundamental level. If we've been eating meat for 2 million years, even if we didn't start out as it being optimal for us, it definitely would have become optimal for us. That's just how biology and evolution work.
One of the points that I just want to get across here is that meat could have been very important for survival, for us being here today, but at the same time, eating a lot of meat could be very bad for your long-term health.
Right. He's implying that we evolved to the food. We evolved to the food available. He's saying if the only thing available is meat, we will evolve for it to be optimal. That's what he's saying. But what we're saying is that who cares once you've reproduced? It doesn't make a difference. So even defining optimal is just confusing. Like, what is optimal? To get to reproduction? To pass on your genes? Or is it to live a long life, disease-free? It's just murky, mate. I'm lost. I feel dumber now.
I don't think he's making a lot of sense.
I feel really dumb right now.
To say that what we've been eating for 2 million years is not what we are designed to eat and what we would be benefited to eat. Can we use plants as medicine? Sure. Can we use it as a crutch to get us through a famine? Absolutely. And we have. And I think that's a serious survival advantage. But that doesn't mean that it's optimal, right? And so it just depends on the journals you're reading. So you need to go to first principles. You need to look at biology, at biochemistry, at organic chemistry, understand botany. That's a big one.
Stop.
Understand how our bodies work, understand what we are designed to eat. And then you don't need anything else. I mean, that's
so. Yeah, go. What are you thinking?
I just want to read you a quote from this 2018 paper of Herman Ponce's, which I recommend everyone read.
Yeah.
He says, meat-heavy, low-carbohydrate diets may have been the norm for some hunter-gatherer populations in the past, but many small-scale societies, including those with excellent metabolic and cardiovascular health, eat diets that are relatively rich in carbohydrates and simple sugars.
If I said to you, Simon, look at these studies, look at biochemistry, look at all these buzzwords you're throwing around, look at biology, look at this mechanism, look at first principles botany, look at this. Do you think this is what we're designed to eat based on these biochemical studies? Start eating that way, you're going to live a long life. Verse, Simon, look at this population over here. They eat this food. This is how long they live. This is how much disease they have. Which one of those gives a better prediction of a real-world scenario that you might end up at? The biochemistry of a food and how we were, quote-unquote, designed, which I'm sure he wasn't there when we were designed, versus here's a real-life population that we're studying, disease-free, who live really long, and this is what they eat. Forget about the biochemistry.
Well, I would say to you, has that real-world example been replicated? To which you would say yes.
Yep.
And then I would say, and therefore, what you're saying is those populations can both procreate and live a long life,
Yeah.
because that's what I want.
Right.
You know, I don't want to just eat a diet that's going to help me to get to an age to procreate.
Yeah.
I want to eat foods that are going to enable me to have children, and also hopefully reduce my risk of developing cancer and having a heart attack.
Right. So if you're a betting man, you're saying, you know what, I'm going to lean on the lifestyle and diet of the people that I've seen walk the walk, versus the other person's going to lean on what we think the people ate and how they lived. And because of the biochemistry, let's just hope that we live a long, healthy life. I know which one I'm choosing. All right. Yeah, I think we could.
I guess the question that I would throw back to Dr. Chaffee, he said that we will, even if a diet is not optimal, we will evolve to that. That diet will become optimal. So I would love to know how we are going to evolve for the McDonald's diet today to become optimal.
Right.
How is that going to happen?
Right.
If people who are being killed by the McDonald's diet in their 50s, 60s, and 70s today are still able to procreate,
Right.
because that diet's not killing them before they can procreate, how on earth are we ever going to evolve to adapt to the McDonald's diet such that it becomes a healthy diet?
Right.
If he can answer that,
Yes. You'll change your ways.
I'll start eating meat and meat only.
Right, exactly. You just can't. To me, that's case closed. But just let's play devil's advocate here. Let's actually do this one. What if he showed you a population of only meat eaters who are 100 years old with clean arteries, no cancer, blah, 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 or not no cancer, but better health outcomes, less prevalence of disease, in their hundreds, healthy and thriving, and all they eat is meat, high saturated fat.
Mm.
What do you say to that?
I'd find that very interesting.
And
I would.
Right. And
I would want to ask a lot of questions.
Right.
Maybe they have some genetic differences.
Sure. But would you not then
such
say
that like saturated fat isn't affecting ApoB in that population?
Sure. But would you not then say, well, at least there is some good evidence right there to potentially choose that diet. I'm seeing a population group living a long life, thriving on only meat. At least there's a ground now to stand on, or a base
I think that
to make
would
a decision.
that would strengthen his position.
That's what I'm saying. But
sure.
But to my knowledge, that doesn't exist. So I feel like he's taken a stab in the dark based on this beautiful evolutionary story that he's told everyone. He's totally guessing. But at least show us a population that's thriving in their hundreds, eating only meat. Where is it?
And
I haven't seen it.
Like even in the records, right? It's pretty well established now that a lot of the earlier records probably overestimated the contribution of meat to these diets because the bones remain.
Yeah.
But the plant foods don't.
Right.
So when they're excavating these sites and looking at what they ate, you may be overestimating the contribution of animal fat and animal protein.
That's an interesting take. I haven't heard that. That's very sensible.
Herman Ponce speaks about that. I think that's the best place for anyone who wants a really sensible overview from an evolutionary anthropologist on this topic. I'm not professing to be that. Dr. Chaffee?
Yeah, he's a doctor.
I think he was an orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that.
Right.
Medical doctor.
Okay. All right.
I would seriously just read Byrne. Don't take our word for this.
Yeah.
Read that book.
I haven't read it. I should read it for sure. I'm sure
it goes into all of this in a lot of detail.
Yeah, awesome.
And it puts to rest a lot of myths that exist around the paleo diet, ancestral eating.
Right.
By the time you put that book down, you'll have a completely different view of what ancestral eating means, and also the role of exercise, particularly in fat loss.
I've read about that part. That's interesting.
Should we move on to the next segment?
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. What is the next segment?
Did you get anything off your chest? I feel like you kind of did.
Do I need to get anything off my chest? Listen.
What do you think about having food on the pod? People listening to us chew. It's probably really annoying.
Yeah, let's test it out. Can I have a walnut? Get it off your chest.
Do you eat a lot of blueberries?
Too much. No, too much.
They're my favorite fruit.
So much. Mm-hmm.
Favorite fruit?
Yep.
Blueberries.
Of course. Blend them into all of my smoothies. Put them in my porridge.
Do you like blackberries?
Blackies I love. Raspberries. I don't discriminate. I like all berries.
You have to choose one berry for the rest of your life. Which do you choose?
Blueies.
Blue?
Yeah.
Why not blackberries? So. What have they done?
So are you bringing colour into this? Come on, son. I love all berries, okay? I love all people. I love all animals. And I love all berries.
Why is there a P in raspberries?
Raspberries. Is it
Like,
silent?
do you say raspberries or do you say rasp?
To me, it's a silent P. Raspberries. Raspberries.
Should we just get rid of the P?
Yeah, if you want. Okay, mate, listen. I'm going to do what you just did to me. I am going to show you a video I'd like you to react to, because this is one of the things that I want to get off my chest.
Mm-hmm. And then can we talk about berries a little bit more? I have the smoothie study.
Yes.
A lot of people sent me this.
I'm going to
Bananas
find
versus berries.
Yeah, I'm keen to hear that. I'm trying to find this video, which I should have prepared earlier. I know.
While you're finding that video,
yeah, can you get
I'll
the
give people a summary.
wheels going? Yeah, let's hear it.
So the banana blueberry smoothie study. I had a lot of people sending me a study during the weeks, which was a collaborative effort from researchers at the University of California and the University of Reading. It looks like Reading. I believe it's Reading.
Okay.
I have been there. I have a funny story. Save that for
Off air?
off air.
Okay.
So this study was looking at a group of polyphenols called flavonols that are in foods, particularly in fruits and vegetables, really rich in berries and apples and pears, but also in cocoa and certain teas. And we know that they seem to be very protective for cardiovascular health and also for cognition. There's been a bunch of different research sort of leading up to this study that suggested that the combination of foods that we eat might affect the absorption of these polyphenols in our meal. Mm-hmm. So they could be foods interacting with each other, leading to reduced bioavailability.
Right. And we know that happens with many nutrients. Right.
So this group of researchers were particularly interested in an enzyme called polyphenol oxidase, PPO. Mm-hmm. We'll shorten that too. And it's known that PPO reduces the bioavailability of flavonols. And PPO is in different fruits and vegetables in varying amounts, but it's very rich in bananas. Mm-hmm. Also, I have a table here. It's not just bananas. We might come back to this. It's also very rich in beet greens, apples, and pears.
Okay. They're
sort of like the top 4 of the foods that they looked at. Because afterwards they went through and just looked at PPO activity in a bunch of different foods for interest's sake. So they were looking at these 3 different contexts. There was a bunch of different little studies within this. It wasn't just one. But broadly speaking, they had one group who were given a flavanol supplement, straight up supplement. So there's no polyphenol oxidase at all. The next group was given a banana smoothie. And the third group was given a blueberry smoothie. They matched the flavanol content in all 3 contexts.
Yep.
Because there's less flavanols naturally in banana than berries.
Right.
So the flavanol content was consistent across the 3 groups. Mm-hmm. What was different in the 3 groups was the polyphenol oxidase.
Yep.
So there was the most PPO was in the banana smoothie, and then there was a little bit in the blueberry smoothie, not a lot because there's not a lot of polyphenol oxidase in blueberries, and then there was none in the supplement group. And so they would have the smoothie or the supplement, and then afterwards they were looking at the plasma, so blood concentration of flavonols. And what they noticed was the supplement and the blueberries significantly increased the flavanol concentration, almost to the same degree. So the little bit amount of PPO in blueberries didn't have much effect on bioavailability of the flavanols in the blueberries. In the banana smoothie, because bananas are so rich in polyphenol oxidase, which seems to break down these flavanols. Yep. The concentration, and this has been misreported, there are some sites I've seen that have suggested that flavanol concentration went down in the banana smoothie arm. It didn't. It went up. It was just 84 or 87, somewhere in the 80s percent lower increase than in the supplement or in the blueberry smoothie arms of the study. So this raises some interesting questions as to what are the take-home points here? Do we need to make smoothies that
separate food groups,
do not have bananas because the bananas are potentially reducing the bioavailability of these flavanol polyphenols?
Yeah.
And the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics in USA recommends about 400 to 600 milligrams of flavanols per day. That's based off all of this research looking at cardiovascular health and cognition. But does it matter how you're getting that 400 to 600 milligrams of flavanols?
Right.
Because really, how much of those are you absorbing? It could be very different from person to person. Yeah. I think a lot of people have seen this study and are freaking out and are potentially it could trigger orthorexia and we could be getting into the weeds here. This is going to be most important for someone who has an unhealthy diet that's not eating a lot of fruit.
Right.
But if you're eating a whole food plant-based or close to that and you're getting so many flavanols throughout the day above what the average person's getting, this is probably of far less concern for you. But if you wanted to really try and maximize the flavanol absorption, then
avoid those foods that you mentioned before if you're pairing them with flavanol-rich foods.
Right. So what you might want to do, I wrote down some potential swaps for people to consider here. So it was beet greens and bananas that are the two that are the most rich in polyphenol oxidase.
Yep.
So if you were wanting to sort of tinker with a few changes to your morning smoothie so that you absorb more of the polyphenols in the berries that you're putting in there, you might swap banana for mango. That's a pretty good swap. Or it could be for pineapple or orange. Both of those were really low in PPO. And cucumber. Frozen cucumber is another good one that you can add into smoothies. But I think mango or pineapple is a pretty good alternative to
very sweet
to banana.
Yeah.
And for the green side of things, instead of using beet greens, you could swap that for kale or spirulina. They were two other kind of greens that they looked at the PPO content of, and they were super low.
Right.
Again, centenarians aren't thinking about this stuff, so we run the risk here of making things way too complicated. And if you look on TikTok right now, it's like these kind of big fear
mongering
type posts about you've been doing it wrong.
Welcome
Don't
to
put
TikTok,
bananas
man.
in your smoothies.
It's not unique to smoothies. They do this with everything. Not that I'm on it. I've never even signed on, but I know what that sort of content is. It's just
hyperbole.
Yeah.
There's a lot of...
You're always doing something wrong. You're always doing it the opposite of how you should be, and they tell you this, it should be that. It's all...
The word that I was looking for was sensationalized.
Yes.
So the findings of this study are interesting.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'll flag here is these guys looked at one interaction of one compound.
Right.
There's probably so many interactions that we're unaware of.
Yeah.
And if we were to run a study on absolutely everything,
yeah.
Imagine trying to create your meals.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting too much kind of stock into this study.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting.
If you want to play around with your smoothies and you are, you enjoy mango, you want to swap banana for mango, then go for it. It's not going to do any harm. But there are, bananas are healthy.
Right.
They have some great micronutrients in them, like potassium.
Right.
And so they certainly have a place in a healthy diet.
Yeah, it depends what you're looking at, right? They're measuring one thing, you can paint it in one way, and you can paint it totally
different. And if you love
way.
bananas and they're getting you to have your smoothie and you're not going to enjoy it and therefore not have it, not worth it.
Silly,
disregard this stuff.
Can I ask you how many bananas were in the smoothie? So
I think it was
one banana?
I think it was one.
Okay, see if you can find that, because this is where it becomes like a practical takeaway. If you're having 4 bananas in your current smoothie, right? Compared to if you're just having half a banana. I wonder if that's going to make a significant difference. Like the PPO in half a banana, surely, when it's combined with a massive serve of blueies, is going to be very different to if you're having 4 bananas, I'm sure. But yeah, see if you can dig that up, because I'd be interested to see how people can apply it to their actual smoothies when they have them in the morning. Like how many bananas should we be thinking about here? And what was the serving of blueberries as well?
To give you an idea, on a per 100 gram basis, blueberries have 270 times less PPO than banana.
Wow, okay. And so you said flavanols? What was the word?
Flavanols.
Flavanols per day should be 400 to 600 what? Milligrams?
Milligrams.
And how many milligrams are in these smoothies based on these serves?
It was around 500 to 600.
Right. So what you're trying to say is you can get your daily dose of flavanols in this one smoothie if it's rich in blueies. But over the course of a day, you're probably going to be eating way more than 500 milligrams of flavanols if you're eating a high plant-based diet. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but this is where it gets really confusing, because the recommendations to have 400 to 600 milligrams of flavanols are based off observational evidence. They're not even looking at what's absorbed.
Right.
So they're probably looking at people who are going out and just eating a whole mix of foods and not absorbing the full 400 to 600 milligrams.
Okay. Yeah. I see. Interesting. I'm not going to change my smoothie. I'm telling you now. I love a frozen banana in my smoothie with my blueberries. But unless I can prove that I have a deficiency in flavanols, I will consider changing the ingredients in my smoothie.
177 grams of ripe frozen bananas.
177 grams?
177 grams.
So that's specific. About 120 grams is a banana, roughly, in weight, from my memory.
Yeah.
Am I
118.
Right?
That's pretty good going. So about 1.5.
The reason I know that is because when I was diagnosed with diabetes, I had to weigh out all my food for the first year to learn what does a food weigh, how many grams of carbs are in it, and I ate a lot of bananas, and so I've weighed plenty of bananas out. So yeah, they're having over 1 banana per smoothie, and that's adding a significant amount of PPO, right? And then what did you say it reduces the absorption by? 80-something%?
The concentration in plasma, the flavanol concentration, it was actually metabolites of flavanols. We don't need to go into the specific details of that, but it was 84% lower in the banana smoothie arm compared to the mixed smoothie and control, between 80 and 90%.
Mm-hmm. So are you going to amend your smoothies, or is this something that you just... It's an interesting takeaway, but probably not something to act on right now.
I tend to think over the course of a day that my total flavanol intake is off the charts.
Yeah, exactly.
That I would be absorbing more than enough.
Right.
And I love frozen banana.
Yeah.
But I also like mango, so I might play around with it. I do think, though, Michael Pollan, eat food, mostly plants, not too much.
Simple. So concise.
Sometimes we overcomplicate
100%.
things, and I know I brought this study to the pod today, but so many people had sent it to me.
Right.
If this wasn't sent to me,
so
this is kind of one of those studies I wouldn't bring up,
right?
In fear that people are going to hear it,
yes,
and then
make unnecessary changes and become orthorexic.
Just giving it too much weight.
Yeah. Is this trending on TikTok? This kind of shit?
Yeah.
God, I'm glad I'm not on there. Speaking of TikTok, can I show you a video that I'd love to see your reaction to? You might have seen this. Do you follow Joey Swoll on Instagram?
The name rings a bell.
Joey
You probably
Swoll.
sent me something from him.
Probably have. He's a big buff bodybuilder who I just love.
Bigger than you?
Mate, he eats me for breakfast. Okay, this guy is very large. I love his content because he calls out the BS that people do in gyms because he cares about the fitness industry, as I do, and I'm sure you do too. What we want is more people in gyms, more people exercising, more people looking after their health, right? He calls out because there's this trend on TikTok of, I want to say, a lot of younger demographic, younger people who set up a tripod and mic themselves up and basically film their workouts and talk to camera and talk about what they're doing. And if somebody, God forbid, walks between the camera and their studio space that they just stole from everyone else, they go to TikTok and they wrote, check this out, this person's doing this and that and walking through my video, the disrespect. Or they'll like film someone with like shitty form so that their video will go viral so they can like laugh at them and, you know. So anyway, have a look at this. This is the sort of content he posts. Let's see what you think about this one.
How did you not see my tripod? Words that never should be spoken at the gym. And why didn't they see your tripod? Because they're minding their own business, getting their workout in. It's not their job or anybody's job to look for your tripod just because you're filming. And I think it's funny that you post in your bio, empowering men and women to achieve the body they want.
That's a fair
How
point.
is this helping men and women?
I love the direct.
When you think it's
reply.
okay to treat people like this and get upset simply because somebody walks through your video, and what's the big deal anyway? Edit it out, which you did. You posted a video without this, but you chose to post this too because you think you own the gym. If you're filming, nobody can go through that space. And I'll go ahead and say it. If somebody walking through your video is enough to upset you and make you lose focus on your set, you're not training hard enough. You need to train harder and do better.
And do more meditation.
Mind your own business.
Do some mindfulness.
How cutthroat is it though?
I love
Like
the
that
directness.
is, I wish I was.
But I think it's perfect.
It's perfect.
Like, I have no problem with someone filming in the gym.
No.
You can film.
Yeah, sure.
But also just be aware that that's not your private space.
And also don't film
Things
me.
are going to happen. People are going to walk in front of it.
Right. If you even notice that somebody walked in that area behind you, you're not in the set. You should be thinking about one thing. Focus on the set. What muscles am I training? How does it feel? How hard am I going to train? If you're thinking about this fake little production you've put together, you're not there to train. You're there to create content. Like, what are you actually doing? And you're turning people off.
And if you are truly about empowering people, then, I mean, that type of content's only going to disempower people and make them feel uncomfortable
100%.
about going into the gym.
100%. There's this trend, mate. I only see it through Joey because I follow him on Instagram, but apparently on TikTok, there's this trend of like creating viral content by filming people doing ridiculous things in the gym and then like making fun of them. But it could be like someone extremely overweight or someone extremely old. At least they're in there. They're trying. And they might be doing something a little bit wrong. Their technique sucks, but it could be their first day in the gym ever. Yeah. Imagine
why not go over
they
and
open
strike
social
up
media.
a conversation with
right,
them and
help
them.
Imagine they're on social media, because some older people are, believe it or not, you youngsters out there. Some older people are on social media. Imagine finding a video of you that's gone viral. Right, like some of the stuff he posts, mate, it's wild. Yeah, these kids.
But it's not even that, to be honest. It's everyone else that sees it.
That's it. It's
and
the message you're sending.
And thinks, gosh, that's what's happening at the gym when I go in. There's
I don't
people
want to go
judging
there.
me like that.
Right.
I think if you're a trainer, anyone that's in that space, it is your duty to make that space feel safe for everyone.
Yeah.
Right?
And just because you have 10,000, 50,000, a million followers, it doesn't make you any better than anyone else in that gym. I don't care about how famous you are. I don't care if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you create this stage to perform your exercise that no one's allowed to walk through, they're paying a membership just like you. They have the right to be there and train and improve themselves. So that's what I want to get off my chest. I hate this fitness culture at the moment of like, everything's a tripod and microphones and, you know, posting it and
it's fake.
Shaming people. And yeah, it's just ridiculous. And he posts videos of kids who, this blows my mind. They take selfies in the change room. So they're flexing in a mirror and there'll be someone naked behind them. And they zoom in on the guy naked and go, look at this old man video bombing my flexing session. It's like, mate, you're in a change room. That's the most appropriate place to be naked. What are you doing filming? And then they post it like, I'm talking full frontal. Like they don't even blur it out. So then he'll repost and he has to blur out. Like, it's just, what has happened to this culture? What has happened? Stay off TikTok,
it's anything
guys.
for the gram.
Stay off TikTok. These 16-year-old like experts in fitness, they've never done anything. They haven't learnt anything. They just, maybe some of them are genetically gifted and they look extremely good. But
what
again,
you have to do to go viral just keeps getting more and more extreme.
I know, but I love that there is this kind of content to offset it. You need Joey Swolls.
Hold people accountable.
Yeah, you need the Lane Nortons to say, hey, this claim is absolute bullshit and ridiculous. Here's why. And expose it. And people are waking up. And I love it. I want to do it. But then it's like our conversation the other day. Imagine how exhausting it is. Like you could see he gets fired up. Like really fired up. He looks down the barrel and he really talks to the person. Imagine having to do that every day.
Yeah, and does that carry over to your time with your friends or your kids or your partner?
I think it does good to expose this stuff, but yeah, on a personal level, it would just be exhausting dealing with that all the time. So anyway, shout out to Joey Swoll. I know he's watching. Of course he watches the Proof podcast.
Keep doing it, dude. I like it.
I love
it's
it.
direct.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It was articulated perfectly.
I know.
And he was right.
He's always right.
He was right.
He's always right. He also posts beautiful, positive stories of like, there was this one the other day and it freaking made me cry. There was this, overweight woman who had this experience, this moment in the gym that uplifted her, and she was just crying in her car talking to camera, and it was like a 6-7 minute video. I watched the whole thing, and it was just beautiful hearing her talk about what a little comment, like somebody in the gym noticed her and came up to her and said, great job, keep it up, you're doing well. I see you. And she was just a mess. Like she was crying. I just got shivers even talking about it. Like I'll show you the video after. It's just put in the show notes. So that people watch that. It's a great video.
I mean, that kind of, you and I were talking about being of service to people. Or like being of service, you often think about that as like, what's the big project or charity that I need to be part of or donation. But the micro things, right? Yeah. And I was thinking about this morning because another thing we spoke about was there is a little difference. You can feel it when you go from like Queensland to Sydney in terms of smiles and good mornings.
Yes. Small town to bigger cities.
It's different.
Yes, it's different.
And I felt that the last week.
Yeah.
And so this morning I was like trying to make a real conscious effort, because what happens is once when you're on the Gold Coast or Byron, it's just normal. Yeah. Everyone you walk past, it's eye contact. Yeah. It's good morning, a smile. Yeah. It's the small things, right? And maybe here and there, it's an odd compliment or something.
Right.
And people are really thoughtful. Mm-hmm. I think in Sydney, just people are maybe they're busier, right?
Yeah,
big
faster
city,
pace,
faster pace. But what I think is, like, so the first couple of days when it came down, I noticed it. Yeah. And it kind of, I'd forgotten that there was this difference that you can feel. Mm. And by 3 or 4 days in, I had become
one of them.
One of them.
So
then this morning I was like, right, I'm not just going to like blend in. I'm conscious effort, and let's try and smile.
Be the change.
Just try and smile at people, some people that I've never seen before, some that I just order coffee from all the time.
Right.
And at the least say good morning, or if there is a genuine compliment, not just to offer compliments for the purpose of it.
Sure.
But if there is a genuine compliment, just give someone a little compliment.
Yes. And
I'm not sure exactly where I was going with that.
But did you do it? Like I'm saying,
I did it.
Right.
And
you felt good, obviously, doing it.
Well, there's science, and again, I'm not sure if this is the right reason to do it, but there is, because if you're doing it for the purpose of feeling better yourself, arguably that's not the right way to think about this.
Well, this is a philosophical question. I've looked into this.
Right. Arguably, you should be doing this out of the sole purpose being to serve others in the community and to give.
Sure. But if you think about the net outcome, your intention, whether it's for you or them, the net outcome's the same.
The net outcome's the same. But
so I don't think it actually matters. This comes back to like the label thing and like.
Well, I wonder though, if you go into it with the intent of it helping you feel better versus it coming from the goodness of your heart.
Yes.
Does it affect you differently?
What I know for sure is it affects that other person in the same way. Whether you did it for you to make yourself feel a bit better that day, or whether you did it because you really, it's not a means to an end.
Genuine.
There's no outcome attached to it. It's just, this is the right thing to do in this moment for that person, you do it, right? Either way, that person, I mean, the byproduct is you're going to feel good. But if you go into it wanting to feel better for yourself or just to be selfless and altruistic and do it for them, either way, they benefit. So I don't actually care what your intention is personally. I think it's a great thing to do. But I think in that video that I was just saying, that guy was 1000% just doing it for her. I believe that. I don't think he was thinking, it'll feel really good for me to serve this lady. I think he saw the moment, he appreciated what she was doing, and he went up and he did it. And it was like this, I think this was your point, going back to it. It's the micro things. It's not the big grand gestures. It's not the, like, I bought a stranger a car, because you see that content as well on social media. Like, I went up to a homeless person and gave him $10,000. It's not that. It's the smile to the barista. It's the say hello to the guy at the gym that you've been walking past every day for 5 years and you've never actually said hello. Like, what's your name?
And it might need to be a little more contrived or planned at the beginning, right? When you're practicing. And you're trying to flex this muscle.
Yeah.
But then, so perfect example. When I was back in Byron, I was never thinking about this. It was just how it is. You're in that environment, and you do feel better from it.
Like, what's the guy, the coffee cart guy? He's featured Irish fellow,
Chris.
Scottish. He's Scottish.
Chris. Yeah.
What a champ.
Amazing.
I've never had an interaction like that in Sydney.
The energy that he offers is incredible. He lights everyone up from the beginning of their day.
Right.
And he brings that community together down there.
Right. But there's space for it there. Because there's not a rush to get to work where there's 20 people behind you. Order coffee, get it, I got to go. There, it's a little slower paced. There's not a line of people commuting to the city. You can have that experience. Which, can you manifest that here? I'd say yes.
My thought process was, I'm going to smile at more people this morning.
Yeah.
Anyone I want
Did anyone
would have
smile back?
ordinarily. A lot of people didn't smile back.
Of course.
And in fact, it was like, who's this weird guy smiling?
Why is he
Left
so
me
happy?
hanging hard.
Fucking guy's too happy.
But there were plenty of people who smiled back.
Right.
And then I thought, well, they're going to go and smile at someone else now.
Bang. There we go. The domino effect. It's very possible that could work.
Pretty simple.
It's so simple. It's definitely a do no harm. And it's definitely the most universal language we have, a smile. I don't care where you're from. Everyone knows what a smile means and it makes you feel good. There's actually some really interesting science on smiling. I just wrote about it in my little ebook that I'm putting together.
Do you care to share?
I'll give you a summary.
The top line.
Obviously, kids smile more than adults, like up to 400 times a day or something compared to adults, which could be like 10 or 20. So a lot of people are in a deficit of smiling and happiness.
You know how you can tell if someone smiles a lot?
How? The crow's feet?
Yep. I got quite a few of those.
You're a happy person. You have to dig deep to find something to get off your chest. Like, that's how happy you are.
I've had those since I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Just crazy laughter.
There's other interesting things about
smiling.
You can reverse engineer the feelings, the endorphins, the happiness of a smile by faking it. So it's like this feedback to the brain. You fake a smile, right? And it feels weird, but do it right now. Just smile. You're not thinking. Just do a smile. Stretch your face. You get the same feelings as if something external triggered that smile. So the scientists,
as in you actually do the smile?
Yes.
Oh.
So you're sitting. You could be alone. Right, and let's say you've got negative thoughts and you're in this spiral of negative thoughts, or maybe you're stressed, anxious. Smiling about nothing gives you a little feedback of that positivity. So it's like you can fake it till you make it in a way.
Or just turn Ricky
So
Gervais
what I was saying,
you don't have to fake anything.
Yeah, true. No, but what I was trying to say with that is at the very least, if you put on a smile for somebody else and they try to match it back to you, even if they don't feel it, it might actually help them to feel that little bit better just in that little moment.
Yeah, you're going to change their biology.
Yes, biohacking them. It's got to be illegal.
Yeah.
Oh,
the serving, where I didn't finish that sentence earlier, there are studies looking at giving.
Right.
And they've shown that the same areas of the brain that light up with sex and with food,
right,
they light up when you serve someone, you give.
Wow. Makes sense. I'm chewing the microphone. I'm so sorry, guys.
The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. Pablo Picasso.
Wow. Pablo, really? You sure it's Pablo Picasso? Prove it.
I'm pretty sure.
I hope you're wrong.
When I read it, it's had his name underneath it.
So. I hope this is a cock and nos moment.
Thank you, Picasso.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
There's a similar one from Mahatma Gandhi that I can't remember at this point in time, but perhaps we bring that to another episode. To the next one.
Maybe you know what? We've got all these different segments and themes. Maybe we end the show each week with you bring in your quote of the week. Just leave people feeling inspired. If anyone's still listening,
We can do that.
that'd be cool. I'll leave you. You're the quote man. You can have that.
We'll leave people with. I've given them a quote today. What was it? The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away.
It's beauty.
And I also came with a dad joke.
Okay, we'll finish with that.
I already told you.
Oh, you got another one? Oh, that was the joke.
Why wasn't the weightlifter paying his rent?
Okay, yeah, I remember.
Do you remember? You can use that. Anyone listening,
Okay.
you can use that. In
That's
fact,
good.
use it today. Make someone laugh.
Okay.
Why wasn't the weightlifter paying his rent?
You tell me. Because he was benching? Ah, guys.
Because he had a really wealthy girlfriend.
There we go. There we go. I love that.
There you have it, friends. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did and want to stay up to date with future episodes, be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow on Apple or Spotify. Finally, thank you for showing up and the effort that you're making to take control of your health. I look forward to hanging out with you again in the next episode.